How's it going, y'all? It's turn-based here. We're almost at the end of this boss cycle with new patch coming out in a couple days, which will have Summer Marion in it and a new season of SOS, new bosses to go through. But for now, while we're waiting for the time to pass, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a guide of Akihiko using Miku as navigator, specifically because he doesn't have as clean of a rotation when he's using Miku and her 8-turn cycle. She doesn't synergize as well with the 3-turn navigators as well as she does with the 2 turns, but I ended up getting higher scores with Akihiko over Ange here. One, because my Miku is higher invested, it's A2 instead of A1, but also I think the special effect for this week just makes the Miku skill 3 put up more damage than maybe the Ange turn revert would, especially considering you don't get to revert to, the things like the theurgy or the resonance for Akihiko. But regardless, I wanted to do a little boss guide before the season wraps up. Hopefully, if y'all are struggling or you want to have like an optimization guide or you just wanted to see what someone else is doing, hopefully you'll get some good value out of this. I don't have Rin or Matoya, as I've said before, so this is my A side, so I'm kind of going all in here with a strategy that I think is pretty good. I was getting some pretty good damage, but you can definitely change up some of the personas or do some different team compositions that might get you a better score. I'm not super sure, but with the kind of weirdness that Akihiko brings with his 3 turns, I think I've got a rotation that generally works out pretty well. As I've mentioned, my Miku is pretty highly invested into. I've got her at A2R0. This is going to be an A1 guide. Her doubling of the highlight and theurgy gauges does change how we use the highlights and changes some of our skill decisions. Specifically with Akihiko's theurgy and resonance, as I mentioned, I have my Miku pretty highly invested into. I've got her A2R0. And as a result, I will be using an A1 rotation guide for this video. There is actually a significant difference because of the doubled highlight gauge and theurgy gauge during the virtual concert. This makes it so that Akihiko can use, if you do his rotation right, 3 of the punches, the knockdown resonance punches, during his big damage turns, instead of just getting 2 off if you only had A0. So there are a couple different things there that change up how I was doing this. I also think the highlight charge and cooldown reset, maybe it makes a difference. I don't really remember how I did it, but if you have A0, you might need to change a couple things. Regardless, I think this guide will work for most people. Let's go over the personas real quick. So this is one where I had a lot of debate on what I was supposed to be doing. I'm not going to deal with any of the personas I used in my previous video, so no Dionysus here. I was using it over there as a sustainer. You probably could get a lot of use out of Dionysus here. I ended up going with Dominion as a generalist buffer because we can use Rebellion and Cohesion on it and get this special skill or special talent where if we're using a skill in an ally, we can get a attack and damage increase on that skill. So I think using Rebellion and Cohesion as well on offsetting turns, in addition to stacking buffs with the virtual concert that Miku is using, I think Dominion is a natural fit here. We're also going to be using Search and Thor because of their debuffing abilities, giving us the additional, it's crit damage taken and elect damage taken, and then also getting, for Cert, the Marakunda and his highlight where he is increasing the damage taken. So we can stack both of these buffs on the enemies for the really big damage turn during the virtual concert, which kind of makes it like using, like some of these abilities are like 4 turns long instead of 2, like the increased damage taken. If you use it right before you launch the skill 3, then you can actually make this last 2 additional turns. So that makes it so that we can actually use these Dominion skills, the Cohesion and Rebellion, during the fight super effectively. So I think this is what I went with, and again, could change it. Didn't have to use Yearlonger this time. Instead, because of his highlight, so that we usually use the Yearlonger highlight for something of the same sort to trigger the Thunderlord's Majesty before his Akihiko's first big damage turn. but here that's not necessary. In terms of team composition, I don't think there's really anything out of the ordinary here. Most of the card sets are pretty standard. Nothing I'm doing differently with any of the characters here. You could do like a Trust and Prosperity on Yukari, for example. In terms of team composition, I don't think there's anything really out of the ordinary here. Card sets are all pretty standard, nothing out of the ordinary for any of the builds, but it's really just coming down to who you're selecting for this boss. I went with Yukari and Turbo, mostly just because of their synergies with Miku and Akihiko. Obviously, you really want to have Yukari for that extra theurgy buff for Akihiko, and then Turbo not only works really well with Akihiko because of the defense down and just being a good character overall, but I think also working really well with Miku for the extra turn stuff, where she can allow Miku to use her skill 3 more naturally in the flow of the fight. You get to use it, I think, kind of in a cool spot that I think maximizes the damage for Akihiko more than you would otherwise. So I think for the most part this is pretty much the best I can do. If you've got a very highly invested wind that you're not using on either side, for example, maybe like, you know, I don't know, A2 or whatever, yeah, maybe use her instead of Turbo, but I think for the most part, the decisions here are pretty standard. And if you're going A0, like I've said, Miku's A1 versus A0 does matter here. If you're going A0 with Miku, there's also an argument to be made that you should switch out Yukari and put her with someone else that isn't wasting the theurgy buffs that she's giving. If I'm not mistaken, if you have Yukari but have A0 Miku, you're not actually getting an additional theurgy. That could be totally wrong, and I'm not analyzing this properly, but I think it kind of depends both on when you're using her virtual concert and also the investments of your other characters, like awarenesses of Akihiko, but that's kind of true for anything. So I think for most people, they're gonna have this sort of setup with at least A1 Miku, and then everyone else is just gonna be a base unit, so pretty sure this is gonna be the standard. Alright y'all, let's get into the rotation here. So starts off pretty standard. We're just going to be using Turbo Skill 1. I've slowed down this recording, then back to a single speed instead of double speed, because there's a lot to talk about here, a lot of nuances with this character. This is a navigator, obviously. There's a couple decisions I wanted to make. I tried making it so I could stack as many debuffs as possible, so the rotation is a little weird. And then I'm obviously just going to use my second best generalist buffer in Dominion, because we already used Dionysus on the other side. We could use Dionysus here, not a big deal. It probably would be a little bit better anyways, but I feel like this was good enough, so I would just stick with it, unless, you know, you didn't even have like an A0 Mikoto on the other side or whatever. So here we're gonna use Miku, her skill 2 or her skill 1, either one of them. I like to start it off with the third song because that one does crit rate, and crit rate is more important than anything else in this game. So I'm just going to use the skill 2 with this song 3, which buffs crit rate. That'll last for the remainder of the first 2+3 turns that we do, or I guess 3+3, depending on the rotation that you're using here. But that one's gonna hold us over. We're gonna use the extra turn there on Turbo. Important to note, I've got a couple highlights up here. We're not gonna use them just yet. I want to hold on to them. The reason why I'm holding on to these is because I want to stack, like I said, the debuffs on the enemies, because they don't get their turns whenever you're in the ghost concert or a virtual concert. I forget like what's the name of it, but that just makes it so that we're going to be able to hold this cert highlight, which gives a damage up debuff until next turn, so that we will be able to have that debuff active for the duration of the big damage turns. So we're going to hold on to that. Again, because of Turbo's extra turn, we get to use Miku's skill a little earlier. This is part of why I'm using Turbo here, not just because she synergizes really well with Akihiko, but also because she has really great Miku synergy. And I know, like, if you had a really highly invested Rico, or if you didn't use that on the other side, or let's say, like, you know, there's something that your account just has better, has a better optimization for like the twins on this side or whatever. Do that. Just do whatever is best for you. But this is what I came up with, and I think it's both like really fun to try and lab this kind of stuff out, but I think it also is giving me the best performance. So here, making sure we got the right skill, and it's going to be the skill 1. You know, the off skill 1, skill 2, skill 1 stuff with Turbo is kind of annoying and hard to keep track of sometimes, and I kind of just want to pull A1 for that, but she's going to get added to the selector or the cognitite shards eventually, so no use doing it. You can use Rebellion here. This is going to have Rebellion up for the remainder of his next damage cycle, which is going to be the first full 3-turn cycle. We also get a couple of commandment buffs on this upcoming Resonance and Theurgy combo. So use the Resonance first, knock down a couple of guys, and then use the Theurgy second. You know, only got 1 knockdown there because of the turbo crits, so you don't get the damage boost as much as we did otherwise, but they're all knocked down for this skill 1. One thing to note, I did use skill 2 instead of skill 1 initially, because we're going to be able to activate 3 punches instead of just 2. The extra grit stacks do make a difference by the end, so you lose out a little bit of crit damage at the beginning, but I promise you the resonance damage is much worth it rather than just giving a little bit more crit damage for the first cycle, which doesn't even do that much damage. It's just a nice little bonus. Yukari's Theurgy, I like to alternate between the 2 ads on the right, just because it switches where the windswept is going. I don't think it really makes a difference anyways. Her damage is pretty pitiful, so we're gonna just assume that that's correct. Here we can use Turbo's highlight. It's gonna get reset. Also, her highlight is gonna be active now for the remainder 2 turns of Akihiko's damage turn. We can use Thor's Thundercaller here, and that'll be able to put the debuff on them for the remainder of, again, the big damage steps. As you can see, we do have the 3 Thunderlord Majesties. I don't have to use Yurlunger in this rotation as our crit buffer because of the way that Miku works, and we're kind of staggering the rotations to a 2-3-3 damage turns, so I don't have to use an extra electric highlight to get the Thunderlord's Majesty off, and we can instead use that early, and so we can hold up Dominion for our big damage turn, which gives a bunch of extra damage. So that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and use the extra turn again. And as we're using these extra turns, I believe we are stacking more of the damage increased debuffs from the special effect for this Sea of Souls guild, or this Sea of Souls boss cycle. So I'm pretty sure that's how that's working. Yeah, here, we're debating on what to do. I wrote a couple things down on my notes, but I just wanted to make sure I had it right. We're going to hold here because we are going to use Wonder's Dominion highlight, which is going to stack both of the Cert Dominion and Turbo's highlights all for the big damage turn, which is upcoming right now. So we're going to use that now, and then we're going to use the Cohesion buff. So we're going to have Cohesion, Rebellion, plus the Dominion's Overclock or special skill stuff. And then we're also going to have the Thunderlord's Majesty, Maracunda, and the Cert highlight all stacked on all the enemies for this big damage turn. As you can see, I'm going to go through right here and just make sure we've got everything all right. These are all the buffs I'm getting. I do have Miku A2, like I said before, so I've got a ton of the Miku buffs on, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to just show you the stats real quick. Crit rate's not as high as I want it to be. You know, the card set isn't perfect, but I don't think it's a big deal here. Part of the damage is going to be luck-based if we can get as many crits as possible, because, you know, we're probably going to miss 1 or 2 crits here, but let's go ahead and hit the Theurgy. I did forget to use the assist skill on that, so oops, I guess, but I don't think that matters because I think we were hitting the crit cap anyways, which is 350, if I'm not mistaken, but anyways, we're going to go ahead and use the Flash Blow, knock some of these guys down, and then so this big skill 3 can deal more damage. Again, I think I got a little unlucky with some of the crits here and some of the knockdowns, so gonna be a little bit less damage than I would have usually gotten, but as you can see, we're still pumping out, you know, massive damage just in that rotation there, so again here, debating on what to do with this highlight. Initially had to use Turbo's highlight, but I wanted to hold it because it's not going to be active for the next big damage turn. We want to use our highlights after this to stack the next two on top of each other. So we'll just go back to our normal rotation. Yukari is really good with this boss fight because she gives three Theurgies with Miku, and that also allows additional usages of the punch or the resonance or whatever it is for Akihiko, and it's just more damage. Everything kind of works really nicely. She doesn't like... I couldn't find a way to get an extra skill 3 in there to charge his Theurgy a little bit more, but it wouldn't have mattered because he would have been pretty far away from getting a significant Theurgy buff anyways. So yeah, I do think that not using Ghost or using the Virtual Concert on Akihiko's turn, that does sacrifice 35 Theurgy energy because we don't have it doubled whenever her A1 effect is in place. What that means is that if we were to use it, for example, on Wonder's turn, the Virtual Concert, then Akihiko would have been able to charge additional Theurgy twice instead of just one time because we activate it on the start of the turn. That's a little confusing. I know. I'm not really explaining it super well right now, but just know it would not have mattered because we're basically going to be using the Theurgy on the last turn anyways, so you would have had to have one more turn for it to really make a difference. Maybe if we have like A1 Akihiko, A1 Yukari, there is some debate there, but I don't think it's really relevant here. So I'm going to use this defense down highlight now because they're only going to get one more action, so we'll have that active for that last turn. And then we'll use Turbo's highlight for our last little bit of this fight. And then yeah, so now this is just pretty standard stuff. Back to this. With Wonder, we're gonna go back to the Thundercaller because it'll wear off, and it's enough buffs to where, you know, we kind of need to apply it. We already have the required amount of electric damage, so we're gonna be good there. And then we're just gonna go back to the well of do the Miku thing. Gonna use the skill 1 after using the skill 2 for the crit rate. And stack as many buffs as possible. Yeah, nothing much else to say here. As you can see, we're gonna end this fight with, on Akihiko's turn, 5 of the, I think it's grit? I don't know if it's grit or metal. I don't know which one is which, but I think it's the grit stacks. Or maybe it's metal. I'm not sure. The punch stacks. We're gonna get 5 punch stacks, and he gets 1 for every electric damage he does, so we'll be able to use the Theurgy, and then we'll use the Resonance, and then we'll use the skill 3. Unfortunately, we don't get to use the punch before using the Theurgy, so no knockdown shenanigans there for no extra damage, but that's okay with me, because the skill 3 does the most damage instead of the Theurgy, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so we're gonna close it out here. Again, we're gonna finish it off with the skill 2. Kind of would like to sneak in an extra skill 3. I don't know if there's something you could do with like the Theurgy targeting, or I don't know how you'd be able to squash another Whisper Wind stack so that you could use another skill 3. So I can't figure it out. I don't think it's possible. I did the math, so yeah, we're gonna finish it off with a little Dominion. We're gonna use Rebellion because it wore off quite a while back, and even though it's not the cohesion buff, we still get those commandment buffs for this resonance and then the Theurgy, so you know, not nothing. Still better than most buffers, considering the fact that you get to use the Dominion special skill on the big damage turn in the middle of the fight. I think it's worth it. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of the fight. Almost 120 million. Not my best, but I'd say it's pretty good. Alright y'all, that just about does it for today. Like I said, there's a couple things that I could have done differently that I think could have gotten a little bit better score. I had a couple other trials that went a little bit better. Just getting the crit luck for Akihiko and not forgetting to use that assist skill or something of the sort. I think that's better. Just try to max out the crit rate on Akihiko if you can. Maybe get some more substats for me. I should have done that, but regardless, you should get a pretty good score using this method. If not, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know. You know, this is kind of the greatness about Miku, is that she offers so many different strategies that you could use for your rotations that It makes the game a lot more interesting in my opinion. But before I sign off, I'm gonna do just a quick little yap about, state of myself on the channel. So if you're not interested, feel free to head out now. That's all good with me. But as you may have seen from the comments or descriptions I've been putting on my videos, AC is currently out of my place, and it's a pretty big problem for where I live. It's like blazing hot here. That's really disrupted the workflow, so I haven't been able to consistently work on videos as much as I'd like. As I continue to work on building up the channel and building up my identity, it's been a little bit tougher to have a consistency from when I'm getting these done and the quality at which I can put these out at. So just appreciate y'all for bearing with me, and hopefully this will be resolved soon so that there can be like a consistency to some of these videos. But in the meantime, you'll just have to do with as they come. But I'm still committed. I'm still trying to work it out. I'm still trying to do what is best for the channel, for myself, and hopefully y'all for some content on a game I think is wildly underappreciated in a lot of respects. So that'll be all for me today, and we'll get maybe a Summer Marion investment video, maybe today or maybe tomorrow. We'll see, but that'll be the next time you'll hear from me, and then we'll do some stuff for the next patch. So thanks for watching, y'all, and see ya.